Doctor, how's my baby?
What happened to him, Mrs. Knox?
He fell down the stairs. How is he?
Fell? He's in a coma. His injuries are serious.
It was a long flight of stairs.
Are you aware he may die, Mrs. Knox?
Oh, no.
And I don't think he only fell.
Please don't let him die.
He didn't only fall, Mrs. Knox. Do you hear what I'm saying?
I don't understand.
Your child was beaten before he fell, if he fell at all.
What?
He was beaten and struck with something in the head.
What do you say? Who's in charge here?
Who beat him, Mrs. Knox?
What's wrong with you?
Who battered this child?
Are you accusing me? You're out of your mind.
Was it you, Mrs. Knox?
No.
Was it? Was it you?
No. 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 Thank you.
Beth Layton called a while ago.
I didn't know any lawyers.
She said you need one.
I do very badly.
Now, about these charges against you.
They're saying I beat my child.
And you didn't?
No.
How old is the baby?
Alfie's 2.5. He'll be 3 in March. March 4th.
That's Alfred?
Yes.
And where is he now?
We're still in the hospital. St. Monica's. That's where I brought him.
And how is his condition?
I don't know. They don't tell me. They only say he's still in a coma. Or they say to me, pray that he doesn't die, Mrs. Knox. As though I were doing anything else.
Can phone the hospital. Who is they? Who began these accusations against you?
Well, first was a doctor
Get me St.
named
Monica's
Freddie.
Hospital, will you?
Santa Monica.
No, best hold it.
Then the
Hold all
police.
calls for a while, please.
And then the district attorney.
Mm-hmm. And what really happened? How was the boy hurt?
It was an accident. He fell down the stairs. I'd been on the phone. I was talking to my ex-husband. It was a very upsetting conversation, mostly about money matters, overdue child support, things like that.
Yes, I'd like to check on the condition of a patient, please. Knox, K-N-O-X, Alfred Knox.
And we talked of other things, mostly personal things. I was very upset.
Where was the baby all this while?
He was crying terribly. They always do when you're on the phone. So I spanked him a little. I've been working all morning. I'm a writer. And I had a deadline to meet that afternoon, and I needed the money. Anyway, I spanked him a little, and I put him back in the nursery, and I gave him a toy to play with.
Oh, they're checking.
Go on, Mrs. Knox.
Well, I went back to my room and started to work again. I could hear Alfie in the next room, and then suddenly I realized I didn't hear anything at all. And it was very quiet in there. So I got up to look. I thought, maybe he fell asleep. He's a regular little sleepyhead sometimes. He'll be playing 1 minute, just loud as can be, and to beat the band. And the next minute, he's just curled up in a corner on the rug or something. I shut like that, fast asleep. He even snores sometimes.
Yes, I'll hold on.
Anyway, I went to the room, and he wasn't there. And I noticed the door leading to the hallway was open. Somehow, he'd opened up the door and walked to the stairs, and he fell. I went and picked him up, held him in my arms. And I could see how badly he was hurt. His head had hit the post at the bottom of the stairs. So I took him to the hospital. And then they turned on me. And they said, "Why did you do this to your child? Why?"
Who was this, the police?
Yes, the police came and searched the apartment and the stairs and all over, and they were acting and treating me as if I were a criminal or a murderer.
Yes, thank you.
And not a mother with a baby lying in a hospital. Sorry.
Yes, I understand. Thank you. I spoke to the doctor. It's a brain injury.
Are they going to operate?
No.
They're waiting. They may if they have to.
Well, it's about the Knox boy, Doctor. You accuse the mother of beating...
Along with the district attorney and the grand jury, yes.
But you're the one who precipitated these charges. What facts do you have?
My examination of the boy, for one thing.
And?
As for me, that's it. And that's all I'll be expected to do, isn't it? In court, I mean. I'll testify as a doctor. As a doctor, I assume I'll be listened to, believed, as a man who can distinguish between a case of falling downstairs and a case of criminally inflicted injuries.
Criminally inflicted injuries? Are you sure they were inflicted?
Not all of them, but most of them.
I don't understand what you mean.
I think the boy might have fallen down the stairs, yes. But before he did, he got it from that woman. He got it bad.
About that, you're sure?
Very sure. And I'm going to help make the jury sure, too. Bruise by bruise by bruise.
Seems to me, Dr. Manfredi, you're looking forward to that moment.
With a vengeance. Look, Mr. Preston, I'm not a cop. Normally, like other doctors, I try to stay out of trouble. Getting involved in cases. But kids are brought in here. Kids whipped with belt buckles. Burned and tortured with scalding water. Bones broken by twisting of little arms and legs. Obvious cases of torture. And like the other doctors, I stand listening and nodding and keeping my own fists from exploding while the parent explains how baby hurt himself, how baby's brother hurt him, how I was carrying baby and I had an epileptic seizure and baby fell. Honest, he just fell. Child abuse, Mr. Preston. It's becoming a disease in this country. Thousands of suspected cases a year and growing.
Well, that boy was beaten, no question about it.
By the mother?
Well, Manfredi, the doctor, doesn't seem to be the type to put himself on the block just for the heck of it.
Dad, you know as well as I do that
Better than you. What?
that a doctor's report in and by itself will never get a conviction.
Well, I talked to the physician who's taking care of the boy now. He's of the same opinion.
Well, let him line up the whole staff.
You'd still believe her?
I have to believe her.
We could. Should make it that much easier for you.
To what?
To let your partner get on with other work, to take this case by yourself.
Do you live here alone?
Yeah, Alfie and I.
Where's your husband now?
In Los Angeles. He's a musician. He's playing in a club there.
Does he know what happened to the baby?
Not yet. I've tried to call him a couple of times. I've left messages for him to call back.
He hasn't.
No, not yet.
He deserves to know what happened, Mrs. Nice.
Okay. I said I'll call him. I'll call him tonight. I am sorry, Mr. Preston. I'm lying to you. I haven't even tried to contact Mike. You see, the last time I spoke to him, he was drunk. That was just before Alfie's accident. Must have been about 6 o'clock in the morning there, and he was drunk. He called to tell me that he decided to get married again. A girl he met at the what's its name, the lounge he works in. A dancer, starlet or something. Forget her name. Anyway, if I call back to tell him about the accident, he's going to think it's another trick of mine to get him to come back here. Because, you see, I've tried it many times before. It's, that he's a bit of a mess, but I still love him. You want some pretzels? They're stale.
No, thanks. Mrs. Knox, is there anything about the accident that you haven't told me, any detail that you haven't told me yet?
That's the umpteenth time that I've been asked that question. What details?
Well, as your lawyer, I have to know everything about the case that there is to know.
I know. And I want to help you. I want to tell you anything that'll be useful to you.
Sometimes clients hold back things from nervousness or fear or...
I'm not nervous with you. I just can't think of anything strange or significant that I haven't already told you. I am nervous about my son, though. And I should be at the hospital waiting for him. Waiting for him to wake up. Mr. Preston, if it's not too far out of your way, could you take me back to the hospital?
Yes.
You're very kind.
I'm holding on to the contention, if a lowly assistant district attorney may be pardoned the verbal niceties, the contention that Mrs. Christine Knox is a child beater.
The difficulty in proving these allegations is...
Allegations. Nicety for nicety. A-double-L-E-G.
I know how to spell it.
I like to spell things out, son. Sue me.
As I was saying, the difficulty in proving these alleged inflicted injuries cases is an enormous one. It's almost impossible.
Wherein the crime committed is most always safe from our curious questions. Unbelievably primitive brutalities take place beyond our gaze. Wherein the infant victim, stunned, battered, most often too young to point later at mommy and daddy and say, j'accuse, j'accuse. Do I spell it out right what you're trying to tell me, son? In my best high school French, or to put it in English, plain English. Aren't you here for no other reason than to fence with me?
I'm not here to fence with you.
No, you're right, you're right. You're here to find out what kind of a plea I'll accept, right, huh?
Among other things.
Well, that's the only thing you're going to find out, because the answer to the big one is guilty.
Guilty? By what evidence? I studied the indictment. What have you beside the medical reports?
The public's revulsion to a woman like her, how's that?
Not enough.
My revulsion.
Not enough.
Look, that woman did it. I know she did it. She beat that child. She nearly beat him to death. And if that boy dies, and there seems to be that chance, I'm going to see to it that that lying client of yours is re-indicted. Make sure you tell her that, huh? Because the charge moves up from assault to, not to manslaughter this time. Oh, no. No, none of your wishy-washy little second-class charges this time round. We don't travel cabin class this time. If that boy dies, we go first class all the way instead. Murder one, we go. First degree, we go. Now, you want to fence a little bit with that, son, huh?
Oh, God.
Are you through?
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear that they don't have any evidence.
No, they don't.
Can't possibly think what kind of evidence they could have. Oh, I remembered last night. A couple of weeks ago, Alfie learned how to unlock that door. This is Alfie, in case you didn't guess.
It's a handsome boy.
That was taken just before Christmas, right before Mike left us. you like birthday parties, come here March 4th. I'm going to give him the biggest and loudest birthday party in the village.
March 4th, the B3.
That's right. Mark the date down, because if you don't walk in with a present of about that big, you're not getting it.
Big toy with wheels that makes lots of noise.
No. He has a pool toy. Maybe a picture book with pages that don't tear out. Hi, Mike.
I've just come from the hospital.
Did you see Alfie?
They wouldn't let me see him. That's how bad off he is. What happened?
I told you on the phone.
Yeah, but how did it happen? I mean, he's in a coma. They don't know whether he's going to live or die.
Don't say that, Mike. He's not going to die.
Who's he?
I'm sorry. Kenneth Preston, my former husband, Michael Knox.
How do you do?
What's he doing here?
I'm an attorney, Mr. Knox. I'm representing your wife in this case.
What case?
It's nothing for you to get excited about.
Look, you don't have a lawyer for nothing. What case?
Christine has been charged with assault.
Assault. What did she do? Take a swipe at a publisher? Look, I'm groggy. I've been awake all night worrying about that kid, and then I spent 5 hours on the plane. Now, what kind of assault? Oh, no. On Alfie. Huh? On Alfie?
That's the accusation, Mr. Knox, not the fact.
Would you leave us alone, please?
It's all right, Ken.
I want to talk to you both later.
You told me it was an accident.
It was.
Then why are they accusing you of, assault?
They're taking me into court because I'm as unlucky in law as I am in love. Or because I was born under the wrong star. Or because I don't know why, because...
Oh, you're not at your typewriter now, Christine. You're talking to me. And I want you to answer me, all right? Now tell me what happened.
He fell. I told you on the phone.
And they're taking you to court because he fell.
No, because I pushed him. Is that what you want me to say?
I want you to tell me if you hit him.
No, I did not hit him.
You were screaming at him on the phone that morning.
He was crying. I was only trying to get him quiet. Besides, how could you tell what I was doing? Or you saw all the way from California, I suppose. I'm surprised you even remember the phone conversation. You were so drunk you could hardly talk.
If anything happens to that baby...
If anything happens, it'll be your fault as much as mine.
What?
Well, how do you expect me to take care of them and be efficient and look after them when you're drunk on the phone and you keep telling me about your new wife? You have absolutely no idea how cruel you are when you're drunk.
Oh, I'm not drunk now.
Well, help yourself to a drink if you need one.
I don't want a drink. I want to know if you beat that child.
No, I did not beat him. He fell.
But Christine, tell me the truth, please. Maybe if you need help, maybe I can help you.
You could have helped. All you had to do was come back. Not for my sake, but for Alfie's. Didn't it ever occur to you that he needed his father?
Don't let's go into that again. He didn't fall, Christine, did he?
He fell.
I knew it last night. I knew it before I saw that lawyer here. You did it, Christine. You did it. Oh, I know you so well. Why'd you have to hurt him?
How dare you accuse me?
What got into you? You lost your temper, didn't you? You got so mad at him that you didn't know what you were doing, right?
Stop it! I didn't do anything. I love him.
Christine,
What?
he didn't fall, did he? If he dies,
Fine, fine. Now, about defending her, if you want my
Dad.
advice, I would...
Dad, if I'm going to do it, let me figure out the hows and the whys.
What are you getting so huffy about?
Well, I'm not getting huffy, but do it my way. You threw me the ball, let me do the running. Okay, what is it?
Dr. Manfredi's testimony. Could
Dad.
that
I thought we agreed that no testimony of his could possibly be
sway
something
the
that-
jury
Yes.
to a point of conviction per
Right.
se? But you put a doctor on the stand, a good doctor, an attractive, earnest, hard-hitting doctor. He's got to sway the jury somewhat. Especially with Earl Rhodes out there making Manfredi look like a combination of Albert Schweitzer and the Mayo brothers.
What do you think the object of Earl's direct examination will be?
To get Manfredi to list the boy's bruises, bruise by bruise by bruise. And your object will be to tear that medical evidence down, bruise by bruise by bruise, and force Manfredi to admit that each individual bruise, conceivably, might have been made by the fall rather than the beating. You understand?
Yes.
But you don't agree.
No.
Why not?
It's too dangerous. Manfredi's like you say he is. He's never going to admit that those bruises could have been a result of an accident. I think he's a man on a mission. He's going to make somebody pay for all those child battering cases he's seen in the hospital.
Well, you're building up a pretty effective witness.
Yeah. I think it'll be pretty effective when I discredit him. When I show the court that he is not an objective witness.
Well, you've got to have more than that to go on.
I know. And I do.
What?
Motherhood.
Thank you, sister. Thanks for coming, Ken.
Is there any news?
Not yet.
Mike? Mrs. Knox?
Yes.
Mr. Knox? We tried. We could have tried earlier, but the boy was in no condition. He died.
No.
I'm sorry.
Mike. Mike, please don't leave me again. You know what they're saying. You've got to stand by me, Mike. Please. Please, Mike. Mike, please. Please, Mike.
Rhodes.
Yeah.
Look, I don't know if I can help.
Who are you?
Mike Knox.
You're the husband.
Ex-husband.
Ah. Well, what is it exactly you think you can do for me, Mr. Knox?
She killed my son, and I want to see her punished for that.
All right, well, that's my job. Let me worry about that.
Look, Mr. Rhodes. I was just trying to help out.
By offering me what? Stories about your life with her? Stories about what she was like before you left her?
Yes.
You said it, Mr. Knox. You're the ex-husband. Why don't you be a good ex? Stay ex.
Wait a minute now. I came here to offer to...
To what? To what? To what? Offering me what? That kind of generosity makes me crawl.
You must be kidding.
I'm famous in legal circles for my sense of humor.
Now, wait a minute. I must have come to the wrong office. What are you talking about?
This isn't a church, buddy. A place you run to for absolution from your own sins.
My sins? She killed my son. You know that. That's what you're prosecuting her for.
Yeah, I know it. And I also know a little bit about you, too. And if it were up to me, and you better believe this, buddy, you'd be up there in that courthouse, and in a few weeks, you'd be sweating it out with her.
She killed my son.
And where were you? And how long had you been there?
I was away. I couldn't stand being near her. You know what kind of a woman she is.
Yeah, I know. I also have a pretty good hunch about the kind of guy you must be. I'm also famous in legal circles for my nose. I smell things good. And I'll clue you, buddy. I don't like what I'm smelling right now. You're the bum who walked out on a wife, huh? You left the wife. I don't care what kind of a wife, alone with a kid to take care of. So what else are you going to tell me? That you had problems in your marriage? Problems she made, that she was this, that she was that? Look, I leave this office tonight after the lousy day I put in here. I go home, and my wife, you think she greets me at the door with roses? She greets me at the door with problems. And my kid gets in the act. Open the door, and I walk in, and she's got problems. So what do? Troop out on them? Take a fast plane to where the palm trees are? You walked once, buddy. Take my advice. Keep on walking. Because you, fortunately, I don't need. Go back to where the palm trees are. You're not doing anybody any good here.
She killed my son.
Right. And I'll see she pays for it. And I'll see that they find her guilty. And without your help, because she's guilty of murder. Yes. We expect to prove, ladies and gentlemen, that Christine Knox did knowingly and willfully commit murder in the first degree upon her son. Knowingly and willfully committed bodily harm of such a serious degree that it caused the death of her infant. We expect to prove
The innocence of the defendant, Christine Knox. And we ask you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, to listen to the facts of the case. The facts. Not to let the enormity of this kind of alleged crime color your judgments. And we respectfully submit that a fair and impartial scrutiny and close attention to the facts can and will prove the innocence of the defendant, Christine Knox. Thank you.
Dr. Manfredi, will you describe to the court and the jury the physical condition of young Alfred Knox on the morning you examined him? You may refer to notes if you wish in order to refresh your recollection.
I don't need any notes.
All right then, Doctor. What were your findings?
The boy was in critical condition. He was unconscious. There was a laceration on the left side of his head.
Did you make a diagnosis here?
I did. Subdural hematoma.
In layman's language, which is...
A blood clot. Underneath the skull, pressing on the brain.
Go on, Doctor.
There was a hematoma about the right eye. In simple language, a black eye.
A black eye? This 2.5-year-old child had a black eye?
Yes.
Go on, Doctor.
On the right forearm, an inch from the wrist, a large contusion the size of a $50. Severe.
Severe. Go on.
On the left forearm, in that area above the wrist, 2 contusions, very large, very severe.
Severe. Go on.
In the lower abdominal area.
In the groin of this little boy?
Yes.
Go on.
In that area, 4 contusions, larger than the others.
That's enough. How many contusions were there altogether?
19. There were 19.
Doctor, do you have an opinion that you can state with reasonable medical certainty as to the cause of these injuries?
I do.
Will you do so?
The injuries, those I've described, were sustained as a result of a beating. A severe pummeling on that child.
Thank you, Doctor. Your witness.
Dr. Manfredi,
Yes?
on October 7th, you were the doctor who received this patient, Alfred Knox, at St. Monica's Hospital, isn't that right?
That's right.
Right. What time did you receive him, Doctor? Do you remember?
It was shortly after 12:30 in the afternoon.
Your shift had then begun a couple of hours earlier.
No such luck.
Well, now, I don't understand, Doctor. Don't the shifts at St. Monica's Hospital go in 8-hour stretches, don't they? Begin at 8 and end at 4?
Well, that particular day, I was working the midnight to 8 shift.
And you were still working at 12:30 in the afternoon?
That's right.
How come, Doc?
We're understaffed at St. Monica's right now.
I see. Well, then, on October 7th, by 12:30 in the afternoon, you had been working, and you'd been on duty for 12 and a half hours. Is that right?
Yes, that's right.
Were you tired, Doctor?
About as tired as you might be if you put in 12 and a half hours here in this courtroom.
Exhausted then, yes?
Not quite.
But quite tired.
Yes.
Doctor, what kind of a night and morning had you put in at the hospital those 12 and a half hours prior to your examination of Alfred Knox?
Routine.
Well, perhaps you would be good enough to describe to the court and jury what your routine duties were. Your memory seems to be a very good one.
Well, let's see. I was on emergency mostly. There were 2 automobile accidents that morning. Bad ones. I treated 3 people in connection with those accidents. There was a vagrant and a dozen or so others.
All of them emergencies,
Yes,
and all of which you handled.
that's right.
And then at 12:30 in the afternoon, another emergency patient was brought in, Alfred Knox, and you had to take care of him, too.
Not take care of him. I simply examined him. I was relieved by another doctor who took over after I finished my examination.
Oh, I see. You just examined him then. Well, how long did you spend with the boy, Doctor?
Long enough to give him a thorough examination.
Well, now, what would you mean by thorough? Half an hour or 45 minutes?
No, of course not.
How long, then, Doctor?
Less than that.
How much less?
5 or 6 minutes, that's all that was necessary.
5 or 6 minutes, Doctor.
I don't work with a stopwatch, Mr. Preston. I don't know exactly. I took as much time examining the boy as I had to.
Doctor, you're not an expert in legal medicine, are you?
No,
In fact, you've never had any special training in police work or even medical legal investigation, have you?
no special training.
And yet, after 5 or 6 minutes, after what you call a thorough investigation of a patient, and while you were quite tired, you could count and classify 19 separate bruises and then come to the conclusion that these injuries were the result of a beating and not a fall?
That's right.
Doctor, after your 5 or 6 minute examination of the child, Alfred Knox, did you ever see the child again?
No.
No further questions.
Harold? Hey, not bad. You don't fence bad at all.
Thank you.
Of course, it was just an act, a lot of fake parrying and thrusting. You didn't cope with Manfredi in there. You didn't cope with any of my witnesses, the other doctors, the coroner.
Mr. Rhodes, you take what you can get, right?
That's right. You're right. You're absolutely right. Say, watch out for Romney. He's my coup de grace.
Who?
The cop who searched the house. Old Hawkeye's Romney. That's where I thrust home.
No, sir. I found nothing at the defendant's apartment the first time I went there.
I see. And did you yesterday, Officer Romney, pursuant to another search warrant, return to the premises? And if so, what did you do there?
I did return, sir. I returned and I made a more thorough search. This time I did find something.
In one of the rooms?
No.
Where?
In an air shaft, directly below the hallway, at the bottom of the air shaft.
What did you find?
A toy, you know, one of those pull toys. It apparently had been thrown out of the window directly from above.
Objection.
Sustained. Strike out the reference to where it may have come from. What did you find there?
Like I said, one of those pull toys. It had a wheel that was cracked and it was stained with something that looked like blood.
Objection.
Sustained. Strike out the reference to what it appeared to be. The jury will disregard it. What did you do with this object, officer, after you found it?
I tagged it and I took it down to the police lab and turned it over to the chemist, who analyzed the brownish red substance and who found it to be...
I object, Your Honor. That evidence, if there is such evidence, must be brought forth by the chemist in question.
Very well. Strike out all the words following and turned it over or handed it to the chemist. Officer Romney, I show you this object and ask you if you recognize it.
Yes, I do.
What is it?
It's the toy which I found in the air shaft at the home of the defendant, 820 Charles Street, Manhattan.
Thank you. Your Honor, wish to offer this object in evidence.
No!
The defendant will resume her seat.
May we have a recess, Your Honor?
Very well, recessed until Monday morning at 10 o'clock. Jurors will not discuss the case.
I want to talk to you.
Not now.
Was it her wrists?
Yes.
Will she be all right?
Oh, she'll be all right. They may claim they want to die, but they usually end up all right.
Thank you. You feel better now? Do you remember more now?
I remember all that I forced myself to forget.
Can you tell me, Christine? Christine?
I killed. I killed my baby. Alfie.
You look like you've come for something. You want something? A bite of apple, maybe?
No. You know what I want. You know what I've come for. I want to make a deal, Earl.
Oh, you want to make a deal. I told you no once before. I've got a better case now. Why do you keep singing the same song?
Listen, my client, whatever she's done, she's paying for it now. She's in a bad way.
According to the psychiatrist's report, she's not in such a bad way in the head, eh?
You know what those reports are like sometimes.
Look, the fact is, no matter how quickly or slowly these reports are put together, it says she's sane. Insane I buy. Insane I'm going to go after her. And sane I'm going to get a conviction.
Why do you want to kill her?
I'm just doing my job. Like you're doing yours. Anyway, the jury decides whether she lives. Not me.
You want blood. She shed blood already.
Look, I've already told you. The jury decides. The law decides. 12 people decides, not me.
All right. Let's bend the law a little bit. Listen, we'll plead guilty to manslaughter 1.
Sure. Girl claims her innocence. Calls everybody dirty swine for accusing her. Swears, screams she didn't do anything. Then you show her how she did it and what she did it with. And all of a sudden it's, whoops, oh yeah, I must have blacked out. Blacked out. That's what she told you, eh? The momentary blackout bit, the I was so distraught bit.
All right, it happens sometimes. I think it happened in this case. I still believe this about this girl. You don't.
Innocence. You're the one that has an innocence about you. You could come in here and tell me the Statue of Liberty was going to dance the Watusi at Shepherd's or wherever it is. And you I'd probably believe. But her? How old are you?
I'm 32.
32. How the years change a guy, huh? I used to be more your speed once, more open, huh? I used to believe in people once. It's funny. You get older, you're supposed to get more mellow. I get older, I get less believing. I miss the old days sometimes. I miss sometimes how much more believing I used to be.
Earl, how old are you?
33. You want a deal? All right. Get out of here. Tell your client she's got a nice lawyer. And she's got a nice deal.
Lessen the charge.
If you consent to change your plea to guilty,
What does that mean?
you'll receive a prison sentence.
I see.
All right, Christine.
It would be fine if I weren't guilty.
Legally, you're entitled to it.
Ken, I don't care. I don't care what you or the district attorney or anybody else thinks. Can't you understand? He was in the hallway, and he was crying. And he kept crying and crying and crying and crying till I just couldn't stand it anymore. So I shook him, and I hit him, and I took that toy away from him, and I threw it at him so hard that he fell down the stairs. And when I went down the stairs and saw him lying there with that toy beside him, I hated that toy so that I picked it up and I threw it away from me as far as possible. I murdered my child.
You didn't do it intentionally, Christine. We have to plead you guilty. We have to save your life.
I don't want my life. Aren't you obligated to plead as I wish?
Yes, I am.
And in order for me to be sentenced to death, you'd have to plead me innocent?
Yes, I would.
Then I wish you would plead me innocent.
What a stupid thing to do. It's almost unbelievable. She must be crazy.
She was determined. She wants to die.
You gonna put her on the stand?
No, that would be like helping her commit suicide. She's itching to confess.
But if you put her on the stand, maybe you could prove how nutty she really is.
Or how guilty.
Where's your defense now? What are you gonna do? You got any witnesses? No. Evidence? No. So what are you gonna do? Just stand there and sum up?
has the prosecution shown that would lead us to believe that Christine Knox is a woman even remotely capable of committing such a crime? A doctor was brought forward who testified that he spent all of a few short minutes examining the child before accusing her. A toy was introduced, and it was stated that the child's head had come into contact with a toy. The district attorney contends that this young mother intentionally struck her own child with that toy. And yet, isn't it possible? Isn't it reasonable to assume that somehow the child might have tripped, might have fallen, and hit his head against the toy accidentally? Because if you have any doubts, if you have a reasonable doubt, ladies and gentlemen, that this young woman, that this mother committed the unbelievable, incomprehensible act of intentionally taking the life of her own baby, if you have any reasonable doubts, then you must say the prosecution has failed to prove what they are obligated under the law to prove, and that Christine Knox is therefore innocent. The burden of proof is on the prosecution, not upon the defendant. Do you really believe that this young mother intentionally took the life of her own baby? Why? For what purpose? What has any young mother to gain by the death of her own child, except eternal grief?
And in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, let me point out that motherhood is not the issue here. Mother love is not on trial. Christine Knox is. And she denied that mother love. She went against all the most basic instincts of nature when she killed her own offspring. Has the jury reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor.
And what is that verdict?
We find the defendant not guilty.
You find Christine Knox not guilty. So say you all?
Yes, sir. Unanimously.
Very well. The jury is discharged for the balance of the term. With the thanks of the court, you report to the central jury room. The defendant will be released from custody forthwith, and this court is adjourned. All rise.
You're free, Christine.
5 or 50 years of freedom will not change the fact that I killed my baby. I've been condemned to live.
I hope you'll come to feel differently in time. Goodbye, Christine.
You don't look very smug.
I don't feel very smug.
You know, just the other day, I took a smack or 2 or 3 at my kid. She started bawling in protest. What was she gonna do? Bring me up on charges of assault? This mitt, my kid, how many times did she get it with this mitt? Here's one from Papa, here's one for the road. That guy wonders now what would have happened if he hadn't stopped smacking. If something inside it had let go just one time, and he had smacked a little bit harder. Just one time, huh?